Top of the morning to you from America's man's man. Doing something nice for someone else is truly the quickest acting, fastest working, most potent drug you can take. And I say that because it's not a metaphor really. I'm just explaining to your brainwashed mind what was obvious to a generation that wasn't brainwashed, which we're at least twice removed from now. And I know that sounds condescending, and maybe it is, but the fact is that in reality, drugs appropriate the authentic human experience, and they help to appropriate the same. They help to stimulate the same pleasure centers in the brain that authentic human experiences do. However, they don't do so as effectively, nor do they do so in a sustainable way. So, in other words, drugs may make you feel good momentarily. However, what they really are is they're a way of temporarily tricking your brain into tricking all your physiological feedback systems into thinking that you're doing something right, when in reality you're not. Be it marijuana or crack cocaine. I know. Marijuana is not addictive. Well, that's not entirely true. In fact, it's actually not true at all. But that's not what this video is about. It's not the subject of this deprogramming video. And that's what we really seek to do here on americasmansman.com. We're looking to deprogram essentially an entire, not only a generation. We're looking to deprogram. We're working very hard to deprogram everyone who grew up in the 20th century, because all of you grew up under the spell of either fake news influence, like Walter Cronkite, and what they and by the way, what the news cuts away from is usually it's their favorite way of lying to you. So when I tell people, I did a whole video, I did a whole episode on how the fake news programs people and lies to us, is not truthful at all, and in that you're better off, that if the fake news says something, you're better off assuming that it is. It would have been more true if the fake news had never said anything at all. And that seems like a very strong claim, because you're probably thinking, well, Peter, aren't they just reporting that they're all about the facts, and they can track this fact to this person or this source? And 90% of the time, probably giving them too much credit, but 90% of the time, each tidbit of trivia which they report, most of it is trivia or gossip, but each tidbit of fake news trivia is usually sourceable on a good day to some person or some government official who actually said what the fake news alleges they said. He, she, or they said. However, again, I have to use examples because the fake news is very crafty, and if I don't use a pattern, anecdotes which form a pattern, to illustrate the problem, it's going to sound highfalutin and academic and overly psychobabble. So I'm just gonna tell you what happened. Here are the facts. No, these are the facts. These are the. So let me illustrate by example how the fake news lies to you. And this is another tangent, but again, we're helping to deprogram you along the way. That's the aim of America's Man's Man, because my purpose is to help you that my country may be better. I know I'm never going to meet most of you personally who are watching this episode, this strange partaking of this strange journey with your fellow millennials and others who are aspiring to be one of the future leaders of America, as all of America's man's men no doubt are, because, if not, what are you doing with your life? You want to be a leader in your school, your government. You want to stand against the tide. You want to do something worthy of your existence. And the whole idea here is to, even though we may never meet, and I will never benefit personally from the fruits of our labors here at americasmansman.com, the idea is that you'll take this and you'll go forth into your world and share the wealth of wisdom that you find here. So during the bogus impeachment trial taking place, or which took place, I'm not following it, in the Senate regarding our good president Donald J. Trump. This is a very simple, clear-cut example. The fake news media, all of them pretty much, ABC, CBS, CNN, Communist News Network, PMSNBC, and the rest, they aired what was argued by the Democrats, the one side that promotes all manner of idiosyncratic, illogical communism, because the fake news is the party of chaos and disorder, because it's only in a chaotic and disorderly America that fake news really has a chance at surviving at this point. And then the Republicans began to defend themselves, and the fake news cut away. So I'd say that malicious omission, malicious and very intentional omission of the truth is what the left really does best. And again, this is why Fox News for a time was able to, just by telling the truth, by showing both sides of any given issue, they were able to make so much money. It's like, oh, you guys are just cutting away from that one side all the time. We're just going to show the other side. And they've been doing this forever. You may remember coverage of a football game in which CBS, they were inside the locker room, and they were going to show everything that this I think it was like a high school or college team was doing. But then the college team or the high school team got down on their knees for a group prayer in the locker room, and CBS immediately and rather awkwardly, because it wasn't a good time to cut away for any other reason other than that they wanted to censor the fact that these children were exhibiting one of the secrets of American greatness, which is our faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, and they cut away from that. Now, this happens all the time. Most of the time, you don't know about it, that they're blocking something. I remember another CBS story in which it was about a tornado, which destroyed a lot of land. This is a couple of years ago, and a man saved his wife's life by laying down upon her in a bathtub, and the thing basically destroyed him, but his wife was left intact because he threw his body on top of her to guard her from the carnage that would result. The wife was talking about something about his faith in God, and how that informed his wisdom in that incident and taking care of his family. and CBS omitted that bit of it. And they always, and they've been doing this consistently more than anything else in the last century. The fake news has omitted God from the story, from all stories, from their collective story, and you have to understand that the fake news is a medium of trivia and disorder. They one of the things that it's the media, fake news media technology. What it really consists of, when you get down to the essentials of it, if you were kind of deconstruct them, and that's fair, because fake news is always attempting to deconstruct the human experience for the sake of technological advancement, is really kind of, I'm getting way too jargony, sorry. If you really get down to it, what fake news does at their core is they're taking the human experience and they're making it. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of waking up here, feeling a little under the weather. I do apologize. They're taking a bunch of trivia from every corner of the universe, and they're attempting to kind of piecemeal assemble it into a story in a way that may make sense, may not make sense, and a lot of times it's in the skewed imagination of the person assembling this, who's usually an editor or something at the news desk, to try to make it, try to string it into a creative story in such a way that it makes sense, which is why anytime you watch a newscast, there's always an awkward transition. Millions were slaughtered in this region of the globe. In other news, Buffy the whale gave birth to several calves. It's just, and that's in the old days, the standard transition. This is how we got ADD as a nation. This is how we became, I'd say, borderline autistic as a nation. And I can back all of this up. I just can't do it all in one episode because we'd be here, we got to stick with one topic, which is asking a lot of a millennial. So bear with me. America. The fake news media has trained our minds to jump from one topic to another because this is the nature of fake news. Again, it's grabbing pieces of trivia from all over the globe, not because it actively seeks it out, but it's I guess it's like it's like the proverbial dragnet, fake news technology, the teletype. Basically, whatever comes in over the AP wire, whatever comes in over the internet, whatever comes in, whatever technology brings to us is what gets vomited. It goes through the teleprompter into the fake news anchor's mind, or maybe through their ear if it's a producer screaming at them, and then it comes out on screen, and you get to see the result on television. But of course, the problem is it's all very disjointed because like Sesame Street, they're just jumping around because there's not time in the day to tell the entire world story, and yet we have to get all the facts from the various trivia in one after the other. So in the old days, there would be this, kind of in recency. Like when I say recency, I mean the last 30 years, people would say, well, in other news would be the standard transition if you couldn't think of anything else. And before that, they would just say, now this. Imagine if you were talking to a friend or something about, it's like, well, I had a wonderful tour of Europe, except the tour company was a little bit strained at the time, but you got the feeling that they just didn't quite have it all together. Now this, are you feeling warm? And it's unnatural, it's unhuman. And when I say we've been brainwashed, Now, granted, there's a profound. I say this has taught us to have ADD, and this is why it's many millennials. Most of the psychoses which psychologists prescribe drugs for today are not. I think I have to, for a legal disclaimer, I have to say that this is not to be construed as medical advice. So please consult a doctor before taking any changes in your medication. Which I am not, by the way. I'm not a doctor. But all of the psychoses which people have been diagnosed with, I don't care if it's depression or autism or ADD. Most of these are media-induced psychoses, which which could simply be cured if we'd only remove the slow and steady poison drip, which is media devices, even like this one. Although I do aspire to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. And the truth is, you're being medicated in a way by everything you watch and interact with on YouTube, and our government perhaps isn't intelligent enough to be able to appropriately regulate it as a drug, but that's what it is. This is a drug of sorts. This is not the free press. This is not the free press. Media is not the free press. Any kind of free press that might be protected by our Constitution, because it does have the tremendous ability to warp our minds, and the last century has borne that out, as I'm attempting to develop here. However, I've gone way off topic from where I had kind of wanted to begin, but it's really in the unexplored nooks and crannies, I think, that the truth kind of comes out. So I'm grateful for the tangents, because it gives us a chance to connect over other things than what both of us initially came here for. But this is America. This is the best nation in the land, and I feel a divine responsibility to protect my fellow millennials. Not only my fellow millennials, but everybody, those who come before, those who come after, because a lot of boomers, so-called boomers, and Generation Xers, they're also caught up in this in slightly different ways, because they had slightly different technologies, but overall it's the same sickness. It's just different manifestations. I was talking to someone about rock music yesterday. That silly, hawkish Goodell there, the ringleader of the NFL. You call him a commissioner, state of the NFL, as if it's like the State of the Union or something. Please, I don't think our good and noble and kind Christian president should have. I heard about the Trump ad. I didn't watch it. I caught glimpses of it, because I was with some roguish types who who pay attention to that kind of thing. But I'm glad. I guess if you want to get the message out about the good word about our good President Trump, fine. It's Super Bowl is as good a way to reach the low information people as any. But they are low information people. Something about there were minorities, like very young minorities, gyrating, doing pelvic thrusts is all I saw for a time, and then there was some piece of social justice warrior insignia that they all formed on the screen, and and that's all I kind of noticed in passing. I didn't even watch it, because who watches the NFL anymore? After it became kind of a low information sport for people who don't have anything better to do, or can't spare the time to go out and play a game themselves. I suppose that would be fine. I think it would be a fine sport to kind of be an interesting spectacle to watch on television if there weren't so many divas on the field. People who actually appreciated the values of teamwork more than the whole fake news media SJW bit. But again, we're getting a little bit off topic. What I had another one of those not a realization, because I know all this stuff, but sometimes I forget. I've known so much, I've forgotten a lot of useful information. I want to impart this wisdom before I pass on to the next world, and I won't be able to share this with you anymore. Rock in general, we're having a conversation about music, and it's long been my understanding. It's not even a conviction, because it's just reality, that most music today, that most of what passes for music today is really nothing more than electronic appropriations of something else, like that Paradigm Agency, that Rob Chalice, whatever his name is, out at Paradigm London. He just has a bunch of people. All they do is they gyrate on the screen. It's been that way since Elvis. It's just the nature of it. You don't. And I say that because someone yesterday that I was with said. She said, "Oh, is that Shakira? Is that J-Lo? Is that Christina Aguilera? No. Britney Spears? No. Mariah? It's not Mariah Carey, because she her facelift is a little bit less aged than Mariah Carey's. They get that kind of frozen face thing going on there. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, but the point is that you can't identify an artist even by their music, and that's how similar it is. You can't. They all sound the same. The only thing that makes them sound slightly the only identifiable characteristics is their cup size, or their in the case of Elvis. Elvis had a. He was one of the first to do it. That's why he stood out. And the Beatles. The Beatles had the mop top do. But point is, there's nothing original. The music has been on a slow, steady descent ever since the fake news, ever since the media got a hold of our collective imagination here in the land of the free, the home of the brave. So there's nothing new. There's nothing original about music. And so consequently, there's the tells are all here if you're paying attention. If you really stop to think, well, gee, whose song is that? First of all, the songs are so difficult to tell apart because they all have the same well-worn chord progressions. They have the same well-worn chord progressions because the essence of intelligent composition, I know this is the composer of the most brilliant work of our generation, which is at fallmusical.com if you haven't discovered it yet, is structure. You have to be able to structure a song well. And the structure of the popular song hasn't changed in the last, since fake news got a hold of it, since Elvis. There's, you have a verse, chorus, verse, chorus usually, and sometimes there's a bridge, and sometimes there are minor variations, but that's it. That's it. The structure is inherently the same, and then within that structure, of course, you have smaller substructures that comprise that structure, and those structures have gotten simpler, and there's little to no variation, and part of that is. The reason for part of that lack of variation is because our fake news brainwashed minds, which switch from one topic to another, because that's what our natural minds have been artificially trained by the drug of media influence, like the so-called nightly news or trivia, which is again not freedom of the press, but rather a manipulation of our mind by an artificial influence, which may not be a physical substance like a pill that we ingest into our body, but which has very harsh and very strong physiological effects, which we have as a society, which the medical industry, which the psychology industry has sought numerous medical ways of of adjusting. And I would suggest to you that the opioid crisis, the black market for Ritalin and riddle out, or riddle me this, riddle me that. Why is everybody addicted to drugs? I believe that the vast majority of psychiatric drugs on the market today, for no matter what cause, are indirect results of the fact that we're drugging ourselves through television, through even if we want to go back to the early days, through an excess consumption of electronic media, even like records and those 8-track tapes and etc. All of these things have artificially